Okay, today at a request from a viewer named Paul Davis, we're going to go over how to adjust your emergency brake or hand brake or parking brake, whatever you choose to call it. This little dealy bobber right here. Now when you pull on it, if you don't get a lot of play by about here, you're probably not getting your parking brake engaged completely. But you can see I've got a lot of play in this before it gets anywhere. So we're going to go ahead and go over the mechanism and where to make adjustments. All right, let's get started. All right, so adjusting the emergency brake is basically just tightening this bolt. But the problem is that that bolt only has so much that you can tighten. So what you can do is you can actually increase like some washers in here and make it so the bolt is pulling the cable even further down the line. Let me show you how this thing operates. The first thing that you do to start with is you need to make sure your rear brakes are adjusted well, because you want to reduce the amount that you have to pull it. But let me show you how this works. I'll go ahead and I'll pull the emergency brake and you can see how it operates. Right, so you can see from that there's a lot of play in the handle before it even starts to pull the cable through the wire here. So what we need to do, and let me show you how the mechanism in the back works too, so you can understand how far this travel needs to be and how much you actually need to get it to move. All right, let me move the camera. All right, so from this view you'll be able to see this this bar that connects the two brakes together and the cable as it pulls the bar that activates the emergency brake. Let me go ahead and activate that and so you can see how that moves. All right, so let's go ahead and make some adjustments on that connector up underneath the center of the car and see if we can make this emergency brake just a little tighter. All right, so like I mentioned, the very first step in adjusting your parking brake is to make sure that your rear brakes are adjusted. This is how you do that. First, get your car jacked up out of gear and with the parking brake off. Give the wheel a spin. Freewheeling, right? Now, this little adjuster right here, it's a 1/4 inch adjuster. If you tighten that, whoops, if you tighten that just a little bit, your wheel won't turn anymore, right? That's too tight. So we're going to back it off a little. And now we've got the wheel turning. If you can hear it just barely touching a little bit, that's okay. All right, do that the other side and then you'll be ready to start working on adjusting the emergency brake. That's the first step. All right, so I got a little vice grip here clamped onto there's a little hex end of the cable on this end. And I've already loosened this with a 9/16 wrench. I should be able to get it by hand. If I can, I'll just go ahead and get the wrench going on there. We're going to pull this off. I'm going to take these existing washers that are on here and see what this, it's like a spring or something at this end. It looks like it's a little janky. And I'm going to just have a look and see what this mechanism is, and if I need to put, I'm going to make a little spacer to put in here so that I can get this cable to be a little bit more extended. And then we'll put it all back together. Let's go ahead and take this thing apart and have a look at the parts. Alright, so we got it all taken apart. Here's the inventory of the components. There's this, it's a brass nut. The advantage to brass is so that it doesn't rust. That way you don't have to worry about this thing's getting completely attached to each other. The brass is not going to rust onto the iron, so you won't have a problem with that. But this has a spring on it on the end. I'm sure that that spring was intended to keep it so that it will stay taut on this end. But this cable is old and nasty, and I don't think that this spring is doing anything. I'm going to take this spring off and give me a little bit more space. And then I'm going to make a small spacer to go between here and the washer so that I can engage more of this shaft. There's a bunch of it here being used up by this spring. So that'll give us a little bit more room that we need to make this just a little bit more responsive. Alright, so there you go. Without much effort, I cut the end off of this old brass pipe fitting and ground it down. It has a nice inside diameter that will fit fine, and it pretty much matches. And it's brass, so I don't have to worry about rust. So let's go ahead and get this thing in place and give it a test and see if we can get that parking brake to be a little more responsive. All right, there you go. Spacer in place, all tightened up. Let's see what it feels like on the handle. All right. Oh yeah, that feels a whole lot better. So anyway, there you go. That is a method, perhaps not the best method, but a method for adjusting the parking brake. I think on this car there was a little bit of a handicap in that when we first got it, the parking brake cable was fused. It didn't move. I end up, instead of replacing the cable, which is probably what I should have done, I stood it up with a ladder and injected it with oil overnight, kept spraying more oil in it, finally got it loosened and reinstalled it as it was. It works, but it's probably stretched and probably needed to be replaced. So I mean, ultimately the best way to handle that, if you get to the point where you can no longer adjust your parking brake, probably need to replace some parts. I didn't do that. This is just an alternate solution, and you know, it might help out those of you who are having some problems adjusting your parking brake. That little spring, I believe, is intended to keep the brake taut when it's not in use, and so it doesn't flop around when it's in the off position. But in this case, that's not the case. It doesn't flop anyway because it's kind of stuck. But I took the spring out to give me a little bit more space for adjusting, and it gave me just what I needed. So that might be a good solution for you. If any of these videos help you out, just check back, subscribe, follow the channel. I share a lot of different stuff, different topics. If you are having a problem with your MG, or any classic car for that matter, shoot me a little comment in the comment section of one of the videos. I monitor them every day, and I mean, I'll take my car apart to show how to solve a problem. And if you can point out a problem that I've not solved, I'd be glad to have the challenge. So yeah, subscribe to the channel, make some comments, and then check out this cup holder. I'm going to do a video on that too. We've given a bunch of those out to some of our followers. If you like that cup holder, you know, check it out. I got a video for that too. That's all I got to you this week. Cheers.